Hello and welcome to another edition of Business Insights. Today we'll be talking with Jay Goth, the CEO of Murrieta Genomics, about where their company is headed and what they have to offer the region. Thank you, Jay, for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Dwight.
Jay, let's start off with a real simple question. How did you get into this genomics business?
Good question, because I never thought I'd see myself here. I've done a lot of things in my life, Dwight. I've sailed the high seas as a merchant seaman. I've drilled for oil in Wyoming. And what brought me to genomics? Well, it was really a confluence of events. A good friend of mine started a company in the biotech business several years ago, and I helped him get that company going and did a lot of work with him. Really got intrigued with what biotech is all about. The whole concept of personalized medicine and changing the way that we do things based upon our individual biology instead of just saying, well, you have this disease and we're going to prescribe this because that's what we do. No, it's you have this disease, but your individual biology tells you that we need to do this. It's a totally different approach to medicine. And I really got intrigued with it. So as you know, I've been working with the city of Marietta at their innovation center for several years, trying to get healthcare technology companies into the innovation center. And over a period of time, I realized that we needed to have something different. You know, San Diego has biopharma. Orange County has medical device. LA has all kinds of different stuff because they have USC and UCLA. And I was thinking, what do we have that's different than all those things? And it turned out that a friend of mine that I happened to meet told me about a company that was doing genetic testing, genomics, in San Diego, and they were looking for a home for their lab. And I said, well, gee, I've got a home and I need a lab or something that would set us apart. It's a marriage made in heaven. So I got together with the person who was running the lab, Brandon Young, one of our co-founders, and I told him what I wanted to do. And I said, let's take your lab and move it into the Innovation Center. And instead of just running a lab where you're sequencing for clients, I mean, we can do that, but let's really incubate new companies that are trying to do new things in this genomics field because it's just starting and the opportunities are endless. And he was all over it. He's started 7 labs so far, and he was really excited about the idea by having a lab that the scientists can come in, we can sequence and provide the data for them, we can validate their science. At the same time, we know business. We can go ahead and help them build the business model. We can assemble an advisory board of people who are experts in the industry and in legal and in accounting so that we can actually help them form a viable company. If they have a valid science, they have a customer, they can actually earn a profit margin, then we've got a real company. Then we can spin that company out of the incubator, give them some seed funding, and get them to a place where they can actually get commercial traction. In an instance like that, in the genomics field, there's only a 2 to 3 year window while that company is commercializing before they get bought by a bigger company. So it was a great idea. Let's do an incubator and incubate the new research companies. So we're not going to become the next Foundation Medicine or other billion-dollar companies. What we want to do is spawn those out of the incubator. So long answer to a short question, but there you have it.
Well, based on that, what are the actual, say, products and services that you're providing to your customers, and who are your customers potentially?
Well, another good question. We have a couple of different customers when you think about it. We actually have, I think, 3 customers. Our first customer is the client that's in the incubator, and that's where we focus a lot of our attention because they need our help in discovering, you know, how are we going to set up this specific science experiment? How are we going to run the genomic sequencing? How are we going to use the data? And they're the scientists. They know their business, but we need to provide the sequencing services to them so that we provide the data that they need so that they can validate their science. That's one customer.
Okay.
Second customer is the local healthcare institutions. We've got a number of hospitals in the region, some new ones coming on, and they send all of their genetic testing out to sequencing companies. And I went to them and I said, hey, if we have genomic sequencing here and we can do your genetic tests, and we can do a faster turnaround time, be competitive on price. How about we do your sequencing for you? And they all said, that's a great idea. We'd love to support you, and we'd love to support what you're doing here in the Murrieta Valley. And I said, great. So that's our second customer. So right now we're in the process of getting the type of certifications our lab needs so that we can do genetic testing for clinical operations like the hospitals. So that's number two. Number three is going to be our investors. So right now we're raising a fund in the company, we call it a kind of a dry powder fund, where when the companies actually prove their science, prove their business model, have a customer, have a product, and we know that we can help them be successful, we want to seed fund them with real money, not $25,000, but we're talking $250,000 to $1 million, so that they can actually start commercializing. Then we'll introduce them to the venture capital sources that would take them to the next step, and after that, I think they're going to get bought by somebody. So that's, the investors are actually, I consider, a customer of ours.
So, if I understand it correctly, for an investor, you're giving them, in a sense, the first shot. If they invest with you now, and kind of put that money up, so it's not necessarily being delegated right now, but it's there. So when you see an opportunity with a science or technology, then you kind of help them invest it. That gives them kind of the first step in the door to make the best return on their investment, correct?
Right. So we've been talking to several investors, and especially institutional investors. Their biggest problem, Dwight, is the fact that they have money, they have a war chest, but they're very reticent about giving it out to companies because, you know, every company is a kind of a crapshoot.
Right.
And what we're providing is what I think of as curated deal flow. I mean, they get to see these companies at the very beginning, and they get to interface with us. So they do get a seat at the table at the very early stage. If they want to partner with us in the seed funding, they can do that. Some of their money will go in through Murrieta Genomics, but they may put some additional money in if they really like the company. But the better thing is, when the company goes for Series A money, the next round of financing, they already know all about them. So it's a no-brainer. It's not like they have to do a bunch of due diligence. All they have to do is see that the company's met its milestones, and it's an easy check. So they really like that idea. The other idea they like is that this is a very new industry, and the fact that we've assembled an advisory board to kind of keep an eye on these companies means that they're getting a better vetting than they would get through a simple referral. I know you're aware of it, but in the venture capital community, almost no company gets funded unless they come in through a referral. But a lot of times the referrals are attorneys, accountants, service providers that they've worked with in the past that have steered them to the right people, or other VCs. In this case, they'd be getting it from the source. They'd be getting a very early look at companies. They may not invest now. They may invest a little through Murrieta Genomics, but maybe later on they really like the company and they want to take a piece before they go public or get bought.
And what are the true benefits of Murrieta Genomics, and what separates you from, say, your competition, or who is your competition?
We have a number of biotech incubators and accelerators here in the Southern California area. I think there's 9 or 10 of them, probably more. And the only difference between us and them is we're only focused on genomic sequencing. We have the expertise, we have the ability to do it. It's a very, very difficult field to penetrate because not too many people really know how to run the sequencer and provide the data to extract the DNA from the samples, to actually duplicate the DNA so you can read them on the machines. And I'm not a scientist, I don't understand any of this either. But I know that it's very hard to find that person. We've got that in Brandon. So with that, you know, we've put a lot of that knowledge and power to work. So in the Southern California area, there is no competitor. In the entire United States, there's only one competitor that we've identified, and that's up in the Bay Area. So what we deliver that's different, I think, though, and the benefit that we have is that we're not like a direct-to-consumer company that's doing a lot of genomic sequencing and then holding the data and then selling the data off to researchers, because this is very valuable information. And obviously there are rules around it. They de-identify the data and all that. But then they sell it off to pharma for research. And I think research is very important, but I think the people who own their DNA data should control it, not the company that's running the sequencer. So we don't have any ownership of the data. Our incubator companies own the data first and foremost, but the people that they sequence own the data as well. So what we've done is we've actually signed an agreement with a company that has a platform that puts their data on the blockchain. And I know you've heard about this.
Right, yes, I've heard about it.
It's a very secure way to store information on the web. It's immutable. There are a lot of advantages to putting data on the blockchain. And the nice thing is the patients control that data source. So if somebody wants to research the data, they have to contact the actual owner of the data, and they have to negotiate terms with them. So instead of going to a company that's sequencing the data and paying them, they're actually paying the people who own the data, which is the patient. So I think opening up the entire field of research to new ways of getting access to genomic data will just provide more and more benefits to society as a whole, because the more we can sequence, the more data we can build, the more we can find answers to health problems that are challenging us right now.
Well, let me talk a little about your organization and the culture, not only the culture within your organization, but the culture that you are looking for these young incubator companies. Tell me a little bit about the culture of Murrieta Genomics and where you see it headed.
Well, we're first and foremost entrepreneurs. All of us are. John Powers is our president, and he came out of the wireless space, but he's been a C-level executive for a couple of different healthcare companies, and he's always been a very big proponent of personalized medicine. So we share a common goal. John is a big proponent. Deepankar Roy is our chief science officer. He's a scientist, of course, did his postdoc at Genentech, very well qualified, got his PhD at USC, really knows the science area, and he's been an entrepreneur most of his life. So, if you talk about a culture, Brandon has started, I think he told me 14 or 15 companies. And when you look at it over a period of time, we've all been involved in entrepreneurial ventures. And the Innovation Center is a breeding ground for entrepreneurs, and the incubator model is focused on entrepreneurs. So if you talk about a cultural identity, I would say it's all about entrepreneurship, bootstrapping, lean, and really just making things happen. None of us are happy in a bureaucracy, I'll tell you that. We all could have had nice paydays and worked for other people. None of us are interested in that. We all want to make things happen on our own and help other entrepreneurs make things happen.
What do you think are your current biggest challenges right now in moving Murrieta Genomics forward? Kind of the hurdles. What are some of the challenges you're trying to overcome?
I'd say our main challenges are, right now we're raising money, so that's always a challenge for a startup company. Number two challenge is finding the entrepreneurs. We've got a couple companies in the incubator now, but we're looking for more. So we were up at UCR yesterday, the University of California, Riverside, and we sponsored an SBIR STTR conference that is really a workshop on how to get money for research from the federal government. And we figured that would be a nice place to find a bunch of entrepreneurs, and we were right. We ran into several that were very interested. Since genomic sequencing is such a niche area,
right,
I would say out of all the people we talked to, maybe 10 or 15% would actually be interested in the genomic sequencing part of the Innovation Center. But then the Murrieta Innovation Center is attracting a bunch of new biotech companies as well. So we've got therapeutic companies that don't need genomic sequencing that are in there. We've got companies that are doing medical device development. We've got a whole bunch of new stuff that's building, and I think the magnet was the fact that Murrieta Genomics built a laboratory and is doing something different in the region. The other thing we did is we attracted a clinical trials company that's operating in Orange County to open up a dedicated clinical trial site in the Innovation Center. So now we'll have a place where people can do studies through an actual clinical trial space and do genomic sequencing at the same time. We think that's going to be a very, very powerful combination.
Can you tell me, I mean, the success in business today, the way I see it, is really collaboration. I think the more you collaborate, the more successful you are. You have, I believe it's 4 or 5, and maybe even 6 hospitals directly within less than 30 minutes from your lab. Along with those, what other companies would you be looking for to possibly collaborate with to grow and expand what you're trying to do?
That's a good point. And in fact, the city of Marietta started a group called the Medical Leaders Luncheon. And it's a quarterly gathering of all of those people, all the players in healthcare in this region, as well as we're starting to attract people from Los Angeles, San Diego, and Orange County as well. And it's a monthly gathering. We have it at a local healthcare facility, and it's grown from just a dozen people at the beginning to the last luncheon we had was over 50 people. And it's those companies you mentioned. It's Loma Linda University Medical Center. It's Rady Children's. It's Southwest Healthcare, which operates both the Rancho Springs and the Temecula Valley Hospital. It's all of the SNFs here, the skilled nursing facilities. It's all the people who are working in healthcare actually congregate and talk about innovation and how we can get this going. So there is a spirit of collaboration in the region already. So we want to mine that, and then we want to extend it. So we recently announced a couple of partnerships or collaborations that we've had. Number one is that blockchain platform. We don't do blockchain. You know, that's a whole nother world.
Yes, it is.
But we have a company that's already established a genomic sequencing platform. So now we have a platform that we can use. So we collaborate with them. We're collaborating with a company that does what they call library prep, which is where you prepare the stuff for sequencing. And that's going to help. We're going to be a showcase for them, and we're also going to help them develop their library prep. So that's a kind of a technology collaboration. Then we just received an agreement. We're going to be working with a company called Oxford Nanopore, which is another type of sequencing instrument than the ones we currently use. So it gives us a different kind of data stream. So we're collaborating with them, and we want to help them, develop in this region. So collaboration is really key to personalized medicine. One of the groups that is in our incubator that Brandon runs is, he runs the lab for a worldwide consortium that's working on cancer treatments. And they've been very, very successful with what they're doing. They're combining different drugs in specific amounts and specific dosages specifically for an individual based upon their genetic profile. And this is the next stage of personalized medicine. And so we collaborate with people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And we've joined groups like Global Alliance for Genomic Health. We've joined Genomics England, where we have access to data, genomic data from England, and we're establishing collaborations all over the world, because I think, that's how this research is going to bring the product to market. The whole key is, when I was working in the university system at UCR as an entrepreneur in residence, I was trying to help get ideas out of the lab and into the market. That's the biggest hurdle we have right now. They say, innovation in the United States is running like second to China now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think the innovation is happening. It's just not getting to the market. We need to do a better job of commercializing. There's all kinds of great technology sitting on the shelf at all of our research universities that needs to get out to the market. So I think at Murrieta Genomics, we're actually developing kind of a new kind of framework that will allow us to take intellectual property that's being generated at the university level, tie it to a business person who really is looking for the next great idea, put the magic secret sauce around them in the advisory board and generating the data, and then create these companies that we can spin out of the incubator that will take that IP out to the market.
Speaking about collaboration, it seems to me that you found a city that is far thinking. They're looking at the future. They're looking at economic growth. Can you tell me a little bit about the relationship with you and the city of Marietta?
I love this city. I mean, that's the easy answer, but I first met Bruce Coleman, who is the economic developer for Murrieta, several years ago. And he was kind of my partner in crime on this whole innovation center idea. And he always was very proactive on introducing me to the council, introducing me to the mayor. And this city has always been very proactive. They don't want to just be a bedroom community to San Diego or Orange County, the way a lot of people perceive this region. And they don't want to just be a service community where, you know, if you want to get a job locally, you have to go to work for a restaurant or somebody like that. They want to build high technology, high growth businesses here in Marietta. And they said, what area do we want to focus on to kind of put our stake in the ground? And they identified healthcare a long time ago. They brought Loma Linda University Medical Center down from the Loma Linda, and they established their second hospital here in Marietta. And then, you know, the city has continually been proactive. They zoned an entire region for research and development.
What are some of, as the CEO, what are some of the key performance indicators that you've set up, and how are you measuring those, and are you meeting those goals?
Yes, we are meeting our initial goals. We've got a couple companies in the incubator. We've been very, very helpful to them, I think. We've helped them identify their business model. We've helped them identify what kind of data they want to use, how they want to get out to market. I think both of the companies may be successful, and as you know, the startup percentages of successful companies is very low. A study came out several years ago that said that there's an 85% greater chance that a company will succeed if it comes out of an incubator than if it just goes, straight to market. And so I think we can meet or exceed the traditional standards, because we want companies to come in, and I know it sounds kind of cruel, but we want them to fail fast if they're going to fail. We don't want them to come in and spend 6 months to a year figuring out that they don't have a product or they don't have a customer. The first thing we want to do is in the first couple months, we want to figure out, do you have a product? Do you have something that is real? And then, do you have a customer that is willing to pay you enough for the product that you actually make a profit? So many scientists and researchers think that they have the next great thing, and they do. But what's the market for it? Sometimes there's just not a market there. So we want to help them. When they come in, we're going to know within the first 4 or 5 months if they're going to be a success. If they are, we're going to put all the things around them that they need to be commercially viable. And that includes a board of directors. It includes an executive team. Scientists want to do research. Some of them think they want to run a company, but after they do it for a little while, they realize they want to get back to the lab. We want them to stay in the lab. We want them to be the science officer of the company. We want to bring in the CEO who's had a track record of success in this specific field, whether it's agriculture, it could be a forensic company, they could be doing, CSI kind of stuff, could be direct to consumer, or it could be agriculture, veterinary, and of course human health, which is where a lot of our focus is.
So ideally, it sounds like you have multiple, like you said, customers, multiple potential ways to go. We work with a group called Consultants Link, and based on your last response, they're a group that is working with both CEOs and former CEOs. So for your investors, it would probably, they'd be looking forward to see that, hey, you're bringing in a CEO that's, he may be 60, 70 years old, but he's ran the company. He's ran, sold, and been profitable. So you're looking for investors, you're looking for scientists, and you're potentially looking for management.
Business, yeah, we're looking for business professionals. We definitely are, because there's a real shortage of people, like you say, that have the gray hair, that understand how to run a business, that have met a payroll, that understand what it takes to drive a company to success. They don't necessarily, like I say, John Powers was, our president, was in the wireless industry for many years, but then he came and he went to work for Intraop, and he went to work for Pink Lotus, and he was able to take healthcare companies and make them successful, because I always say, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, and I've been in energy, I've been in hospitality, I've been in real estate, I've been in finance. Business is business.
Right.
You need a product, you need a customer, you need a way to talk to the customer, and you need your customer to pay their bills. That's business. And it doesn't matter if you're in genomic sequencing or you're on a fishing boat, it's all the same thing.
So if I'm a CEO, I'm an investor, or I'm a young entrepreneur or scientist, how do I get a hold of you, and which is the best way for them to contact you if they've watched this program and they're saying, I want to learn more? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is to just go on our website. And if you Google Murrieta Genomics, it'll go right to Murrieta Genomics. It's murrietagenomics.com. We're trying to make it easy for people.
Okay.
And that's really the best way, because you can find out more about us. We have a nice little introductory whiteboard video. We have bios of the management team, our advisory board, and we have all the news that we've recently published. We're putting out between 1 and 2 press releases a week right now, because things are really, really picking up. So there's a contact form at the bottom. They can either fill out the contact form, or we have, a phone number. We still use telephones, so people can call us.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate you taking the time
Thanks,
to be with
Dwight.
us. As you've heard Jay talk, there's a great opportunity in the genomics industry for young entrepreneurs, scientists, investors, and even former CEOs. So I encourage you to at least touch base with Jay Goth, or again, go to the website to find out more. But there's an opportunity here for you to grow and expand what you're doing now and increase your investments. Thank you for watching this edition of Business Insights. I'm Dwight Cromie. Thank you.